Hello and welcome to my next session on event planning and production. I hope you liked my earlier two lectures and hope you enjoy this one too. So let's start with the basics, then I'll take you through. So I'll share my deck with you. So here we go. So today we're going to do event planning tools. Okay, the various phases of event planning and event management. So how does, I remember we did in my last lectures, I've done the 6 C's of event management, and I had taken you through the full process. Today we will address a few of them in detail and then the entire planning process. So the first thing that starts, how do you start when maybe an event comes to you, or maybe you plan an event by yourself, or maybe the client wants to do it, you to do it for them. The first thing happens is you have a brief. You get a brief from the client giving you specifics, details about, what is their objective. The first thing is, what is their objective? Why are they doing that event? And when do they want to do it? And who is their target audience? And what are they going to derive from that event at the end of the day? So once you get that brief, and obviously you're noting it down in your communications, we learned that you're noting down every information, every detail points that you're getting on the brief. You've noted your brief down, or sometimes even the client mails it to you. The next, you come back to your drawing board with your team and you start conceptualizing, you start thinking different on different lines as to what the client's objective was, and marrying the objective with what kind of ideas that you have, the different ideas, the different plan that you have in mind as to how you would put this whole event together for your client. So you start thinking, you go back, sit with your team, brainstorm, take each one's ideas. It's always important to have each one's ideas and understand what each one wants, what each one is suggesting, and then you can make you can come to an arrangement, an understanding between all of you, and then come up on a fix. So that is conceptualizing. This is all part of a pre-production process. Okay, there are 3 phases: pre-production, planning and content creation strategy, execution strategy, and then the post-event strategy. Coming back to the first, once you have your concept in place, once you've decided that this is what you're going to give your client, you draw out an element list. Against the element list, you have a budget column. You start budgeting for it. So obviously, you will have different sources, different resources from where you will find out and get quotations basis each element. An element list is simply what you will require for the event. Shut your eyes. I mean, that's how I invented my checklist. And that's how today the checklist is so famous, and everybody, without a checklist, no event is possible. So you draw up an Excel sheet, start with shut your eyes and go take a walkthrough from your event when you get to the entire inside, etc. From the time you're going to start planning, and start putting down a list of sound, lights, venue, set in time, load in, load out, how many days for breakup, etc., etc. I will share an element list with you in another lecture when we do checklists and element list. So, and besides that, you have your budget. Now you have your whole cost. So say hypothetically your event is 15 lakhs. Okay. Now basis that, you start developing content as to what is your event firstly. Is it a music concert? Is it a corporate event? Is it a product launch? Is it a wedding that you're planning? What is it that you plan? A wedding event. Basis what you've done, you start thinking, then obviously you in your brief, you ask questions as to who are the people. Say if take an example, I'm taking an example right now of a wedding event, okay, and the most famous wedding event these days is the Sangeet, right? Now in the Sangeet, we want to know how old is the couple, who are the kind of people that are going to come for that, If it's an after party, then it's going to be just the young crowd. If it is a general one, then is it going to be with the family and the adults put together? Therefore, what kind of content will you develop? What will they like? What are they from abroad? Are they from India? What is their culture? What is their religion, community culture? Basis that, all these points help you develop the content for whatever event you are planning or you're assigned. Likewise, the target audience mapping. So who are going to be there, and therefore what are you going to give them? So if it is one of the functions, again, I'm taking an example of a wedding. There are various functions that people have in a wedding. The after party mainly is for the youth. All right, so there you can't have Talat Aziz coming and singing ghazals. You will have a DJ, and you will have people foot tapping music, and people will be dancing on the floor. But what happens to the adults? So for the adults also, you've been asked to create another event in another venue. Now there, what will you develop? Who will you get? There may be people enjoy a Qawwali night or a Mujra night or different kinds of things. Again, basis the crowd, their age group and tastes. So that's how you plan your target audience. You map out and you plan, make a plan. Come next to the execution strategy. Now, all this is again a full teamwork. There are different teams assigned. We will do it when we go later in the later slides. You'll see that. So right now, this is an overview. I'm just going to the next stage, which is the during the event stage, the show production, literally. Meaning now, if your event is planned, say, 2 months down the line, and you have to start planning. So in that conceptualization, in that element list, etc., you have booked your venue, you have done your work sourcing out different areas, venues, vendors, etc. You've done your homework, you've made all that. That is all the pre-production stage, and it is huge, mind you. Okay, it's a proper full, another big lecture in that, but we have to go as per this phase right now. Next comes your during the event and the show production time, where you have come to that stage now that you will say, okay, let's go with the example of the Sangeet only, all right? So what will the event flow be? Again, it's an Excel sheet where you start putting down 7 p.m., guests arrive, ushers put them in there, have them seated in their places, starters start flowing, ambient music is on, and 8 o'clock sharp, you start the Sangeet. So the MC comes on stage, MC will introduce whatever, MC introduces the performing artist, or there are MCs these days that the family does the anchoring, and they call the people on stage and performance happens. And then again, the main MC comes back and explains, throws the floor open for dancing. That's an event flow. Okay, that is for a Sangeet wedding. Maybe for let me give you an award ceremony one, which is like very, very crucial, because award ceremonies are televised events and you can't have cliches. So it has to be a very tight one, and it has to go snap, 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 one after the other. So there, your minute-to-minute event flow has to be perfect. It keeps improvising. You can keep putting it down and then, keep improvising. It improvises till 6 p.m. in the evening before your event begins. You take your final printout, that event flow goes to the entire team, the working team, the console, people on the console, the backstage management team, the head of the team, etc. Everybody has the same event flow. So everybody knows what's to be done, what time, how does it start, when does it start, when does this end, when is the next entry, is somebody on standby? Okay, that is also a mix of backstage management, stage management, front stage management, and your entire event flows glitchlessly. Come to manpower management. You need to decide what your team is going to be. Now, every team has a different role to play towards all these phases. In the beginning, pre-production stage, they are doing all the sourcing, they're calling the vendors, taking quotations, putting down the budget list, confirming that this is done, concluding a budget list, content department is working on the content development. Everybody is doing their own different work at that stage. They have a different role to play during the event and show, right? And obviously it follows from what they were doing before, but not necessarily. Like the element list person is by all means the production person, and here the production person is on the floor that day during the show time and making sure all his stuff is ready. Are we ready to roll? Is everybody in place? Is all the equipment all ready? Are the bands all set up, etc.? So your team management as to who will do what has to be spelled out very clearly for the 3 phases. Obviously, there has to be good team coordination. Like I've always said before, good event planning is each one given their responsibilities, do their jobs well to the T, keep interacting with each other. We have weekly meetings. As we go closer, we have 2-day meetings, every meeting after every 2 days after the end of the day, and take progress work. This is the job of the project head, to put the whole team together, keep taking note of what each one is doing. Where are we stuck? Is there any problem? Is this not happening? If it's a ticketed event, are tickets selling, not selling? What is the feedback that is coming in? Because I'm going to my next point. Check GAUS, progress, response, and then tweak accordingly. Should you feel that it's almost 25 days or a month and no tickets are selling, find out what is the reason. We can always take a call. We still have another 10 days. You do early bird programs, you do strategies, you can reduce the price and say, okay, we'll do group offerings and various things you can think of. Likewise, if you feel that tickets have not sold, and why are you having such a big venue? You still not got on ground. Maybe you can decide and confine your venue and make it smaller so that your production cost, etc., goes down. And you save, and you're catering to just the requirement that you have. These are all ifs and buts and progressive decisions that you need to take whilst you are planning an event. So team coordination, team work together, and the project manager sitting overhead like a hawk and watching and putting everything together is of core importance. You go through now, the last part is you take your show through, and I've mentioned this earlier. In events, we don't have a retake. It's a start to finish, glitchless, without any stoppage, especially when it is a live televised event. These days, not many are live televised for various reasons, so that they can tweak and they can make the show programming to how they want it, But earlier days, we used to do live telecast, where we had no choice but to be on the ball completely all the time and make sure that it starts and ends as programmed and planned without any stopping. So you take your event through like that. Then the last stage, one very important aspect is I've seen in events is the teams work like maniacs all through. Some events call for working for months together. People don't sleep. They don't go home, and then as you come closer to the event, this is a definite thing especially for the production team and the main heads and stuff. So you've got to plan and see how you have made your schedule, where towards the end of the event you are more and more specific, and you're there live and kicking to be handling everything. Not that you're so fagged out, you've gone crazy, you've not had 2 teams. What I'm trying to say here is you must have a team that overtakes. So if somebody is working all through the day, don't make that person work through the night too. Maybe 1 night, 2 nights is okay. That is on the event day. That is perfectly fine, and it has to be. But in the days earlier, you can have teams so that they get their rest, and then they are absolutely up and about to manage the event on the event day. Okay, very important. And after the event, after you've completed the event, there has to be another post-production team which takes over and does all the closing down, breakage, close-up reports and etc. So because the people who have worked continuously for 3 to 4 nights before the event, those go home and take a rest. Probably they may have another event to take on in another 2 days, or maybe there are 2 events parallelly running. You never know. So ideally what I'm trying to say is team management, shuffling of shifts management. How do you do? Somebody does the morning, then one does the night, and then you come back the next morning. You're fresh and you're there to do the event. Often I've seen people who collapse during the event time. And I've learned it the hard way through a lesson that in my first events which I had done, I thought I was champion and I would do everything. And luckily I collapsed after it all got over, not before. But I've seen people collapse just before the event. Now your closing reports, winding up, closing up with your vendors, making sure they have delivered everything. So now how are you going to make the payments? There are many closures that you need to make on all fronts. Your venue has to be returned back in the same condition that you had taken it. So if there is any breakage, if there is any damaging done, etc., then you got to deal with the venue owners and the proprietors and take it up and close every single aspect and area of an event. Normally this is about another 8-10 day phase, sometimes even 15 days when it's a large event, when there are a lot many vendors and there are a lot many sometimes breakage, bringing down big sets and large production takes about 4 to 5 days also. So depending on everything, how this whole post-production team takes over. Of course, they keep on going. So it is also the job of the production team to hand over properly to the post-production in terms of what they need to do. And this is what we have, and this is how you're going to. You're already working close-knit as a team. So all you've got to do is take a proper handover and then close everything. Another big task that we need to do, the post-production team, or maybe that after a 1-day rest or whatever, the production team and the marketing team sit together and do a proper report on what was expected by the client and what did we deliver. Did we deliver what they wanted? How much of it did we deliver? How much we could not deliver? How many psychographics and demographics of the event? How many people finally came? And what did you see? General reaction. Because events is all about instant feedback, touch and feel experience. So there are various ways where sometimes people, before leaving, you have a survey and did you enjoy the event, or even simple asking people, or even simple looking at people enjoying the show. You know that it was a success. You see empty seats, you see people sitting not enjoying. All that can be observed, and the client is already observing, mind you. So you need to be true to what you report at the end in every manner. How did the show go from start to finish? It was all okay. Many a times there are glitches, sometimes there are errors, sometimes the anchor goofs up, says a wrong name. All that needs to be noted, reported, of course, and reported in a manner that is convincing to the client. At the return of investment, we don't have any measurement tool today to do returns of investment. But like I said, we evaluate. And now here, how can I give you, let me give you an example of a good reporting, revert reporting to the client is when I was doing the Standard Chartered Mumbai marathons, every year, now the client spends so much of money. And like I've always said earlier, when a client spends hypothetical figures, 5 crores, he wants 15 crore worth back. So how are you going to now the planning process for a marathon is a good 4 to 6 months. Okay, the advertising, the hype of creating the hype of the event itself starts 3 months in advance. So we have our media plan in place and we have all the ads coming out. Now, this is a hypothetical example for one event. You can hold it good for other events. So meaning whatever advertising you've done, if you've done radio spots, if you've done hoardings, if you've done print ads, all that has to be collected and pasted onto a nice page, and you get these ready-made folders and you make your report on that. So-and-so date, so-and-so ad came in, so many tickets got sold with this ad. So this gives an idea to the clients that, okay, this is how we moved. And where did we go wrong or where did we go right, and should we repeat the same? So like that, you've got to give a return of investment, a complete report saying that this is where we succeeded, this is how it happened, this is where it didn't work, maybe we should try better next time, and we have a plan for next time, a better plan, because it's a learning process every time, okay? As long as you don't make the same mistakes again, it's good. And that's how you present this folder. We used to present to the client, go and meet them. It was a review meeting. It was also first a closed door review meeting in your own office, where the whole team sits together and reviews the event and, you know, takes up all the points where if something went wrong, why did it go wrong? What can we do to make it better? And you make your notings, and that's how that same thing you go with a small team again, the main marketing head or whatever, go back to the client and present this whole closing presentation to the client. That gives the client an idea that, well, I did well with this event. I think I should, this is how we will improvise for the next one. And next year we will do it in this manner. So now we go stepwise into the first phase, like we were. Develop event goals and objectives. Now here, this is a case scenario. Let's take one where the client is not. You are organizing as an event company and you have an intellectual property and you want to organize a Navratri Garba, for example. Okay. So what is your objective? Obviously, to get the maximum crowd, to make the best sales, right? To make the best ticket sales. What do you hope to achieve? A huge, lovely, successful 9-day Navratra event, which can be done year on year and which works well for clients to participate, for clients to sponsor and be on board. Who are your TG here? Your target group. Obviously, the youth, the millennials, and families too. Today I see everybody playing Navratra. So it is a good 5-year-old kid to a 60-year-old grandmother maybe, or a mother. It's a big gap. Okay, so that's your target group. Now, target group also area-wise, where Navratra is concerned. Okay, obviously you look at the Gujarati localities where there's more Gujarati population, because theirs is the Navratra is their festival and they're going to be there for sure. It's like going to the mandir for them, right? So, you select the area where you are going to have your Navratra. It's going to be easily accessible for people to get there. Precisely coming to that, where do you need to have the event? Okay, are you going to have it in some godforsaken place where people are going to have, all dressed up in their glory and the kerias and the ghagras? Are they going to travel and go far away? As it is, the timelines are like 10 o'clock, it shuts down. So, barely there's 2 hours of play. Is it going to work? People will come or will not come. Obviously, therefore, are you going to look at a venue which will allow you to go on till about 1:30 in the night? And therefore, that is a hotel, obviously a hotel banquet hall, or a enclosed place which allows you minimum up to 1:30, where then it makes more sense for you and for the participants. When do you want to have? Now, in this place, obviously it has to be during Navratra. Otherwise, if you're planning other things, then to keep in mind is when you come to the third part, when setting a date, is you're considering whether there are exams happening at that time. Do you have that much preparation time? Is it a bank holiday? Are there religious holidays? Will people go away? The long holidays, will there be people? People normally travel during those days, school holidays, etc. Your target group should be available at that time. So these are the questions you want to ask, when you say, when do you want to do it? Where do you want to do it? Okay, that's your preset or pre-plan. Okay? Also, if it is a recurring event, if it's an intellectual property which you're going to do year on year on year, like the Navratra, for example, it makes sense every time that you do a tie-up with a venue for 3 years. it's beneficial, mutually beneficial for both in terms of commercials, in terms of planning. You get used to the place, you know exactly what you want, you know what you've got to do. Many things help in that manner. So when do you want to have it? Go to the on the right side and check the when setting a date plan. Coming to the organizing a team, I just discussed it in the earlier slide. Identify the key project manager, obviously the senior most person who handles. Now, key project manager, there could be 3 to 4 project managers in an organization, depending on the work that is there, the workload, or there could be one, and he could be handling. Ideally, any project manager should be able to handle at least 2 projects parallelly, simultaneously. Okay, if not 3, 2 for sure. So then he identifies the heads for the following. So there is basically you should have a hardcore team of about 4 or 5 people, and then each one has their own hands down. Okay, venue construct and production, very important, because that person is supposed to be on ground there at all times, dealing with all the vendors, checking if they're doing things on time. You remember, you have your backward schedule plan. Are they doing it on time? Like, for example, if you're building a set, day 4, how much has the set been built? Are we lagging behind? Do they have short of labor? Or are they wasting their time? Things like that. So the production person, construct person is on the venue at all times and looking after complete venue in terms of entry gate se lekar passage to the hall where you're doing it, or to the open area where you're doing it, the stage, lights, sound, set, everything. So that's a huge. So he definitely needs hands to run around, legs to run around. So he will get extra hands, and he is the venue construct head there. Should anything happen, he liaisons with the project head. Sound and light. They make a show look good. I mean, sound and lights are the backbone of a good event, of any event, any activity for that matter. So how good, who are the first, who's the vendor? What kind of lights does he have? Now for this, the project manager needs to have good enough knowledge to understand that his production manager has indented for. So how do you go and order sound and light? You have your various vendors. You may have 3, 4, 5 on hand. Again, basis the scale of the event, you will go and approach 2 to 3 vendors, send them a list of what you want on sound and lights. Now you need to understand and learn what lights and sound are. That is again a very technical lecture, but you will get into detailing slowly. But basic sound, few basic things I'll tell you. Sound is denoted basis number of people. So the first thing that you will tell your sound vendor, I want sound, he'll say capacity. One capacity of the venue is one thing. Maybe the venue may take, 500 people, but your requirement in that 500 capacity venue is just 150. So you have to give 150, the number of people, to the guy, so that he understands that, what works for this, whether it's going to be sound from the floor, it's going to be fly sound, it's going to be, you need delayed stacks in the venue. If it's huge, if your crowd is huge, you need delayed stacks across the whole venue, basically to ensure that the event or the show is heard by the first person sitting on the row and the last person sitting in the last row. That's how it's ensured. So that is show sound. Lights obviously there are 2 kinds again. One are the show lights and one is the general ambient lighting. Ambient lighting is from the entrance of the gate, where you must have light for people to come in comfortably, see comfortably, look up nice and bright, it's well decorated, it's well lit. And then again in your hall, normally if you do it in a venue, in a banquet hall, the ambient lighting of the hotel is good enough. But sometimes you need to dim some of them because they're really very, very bright. You need to be coordinating with the venue person as to how you can dim the lights, how you can put them on fully, all that. That is ambient lighting. And also you can enhance ambient lighting with power cans. Sometimes give it that, you know, you want a nice, if it's an evening, if it's a music evening, then you need somber lights, you need, you know, show lights, you need a little bit of enhanced lighting to the sides, you need to give a little bit of color, then you have to accordingly indent for the same. And then comes the show lights. Show lights are, so when your show is running on the your show is running on the stage, you must be seeing those trusses, like things that where we implant the lights on. Those are show lights. So they're power cans, we have power cans, we have moving heads, we have flammers, we have LED power cans, mixers, many. In today's technology, there are a huge lot. There's a big line of them. Okay, you also have color labs, which throw color on do color washes. Okay, now that's a detailed lecture again. I cannot go more into that, but these two things make your event give it a good look and feel, and the correct look and feel. You should be making sure that when your show lights are there, it's not that, you know, the lights are so powerful that your artist cannot be seen. Now, those technicalities, the sound and light technical engineer do it along with the project manager and set it all up. Okay, they do the bit. You have to just oversee and see that it's all okay. Even if it's a television show, all the more, because television has its own technical requirements. It needs to have that proper brightness to shoot from, and therefore you cannot have, even to the extent of lights and color. The color of the lights is also taken into consideration, basis the artist's costume, what they're wearing, what is their background, therefore all that matters. Okay, that's why lights generally are perched up 2 days before the show. 1 day before the show, there's a proper sound and light technical rehearsal that happens, so that we know how we're going to be looking at this and how is it going to be looking on the day of the show. Creative designing here includes everything, all kind of design work that you have to do in terms of whether it is designing your ads, whether it's designing your social media pages, whether it is designing the backdrop of the stage. And obviously there is a consistency in all that. You don't do different designing for different the main logo and the look, the static look, remain constant. The colors remain constant. Just the designing changes from place to place. So for a stage backdrop, I mean, either you use an LED backdrop, then you can do many more things. So this is a creative team doing all the creative work on different areas of designing. Entertainment. What is your event? Who have you engaged? Is there an artist performing? Then the complete tech rider from the artist given to the production head and the sound and light guy, so that they bring their material accordingly. Any artist you engage, you have to take their tech rider from them in terms of what do they want for the band that you have to provide, and it all has to be there ready for them before they come to set up. So celebrity and artist management and this entertainment all linked together. Maybe you can have a team of 2 or a team of 1 with 2-3 hands managing everything. The artists, whether they've received their contracts, have they signed it off, have they received their advance, have you kept copies of everything, have you made enough communication with them, what time are they coming, have you got your green room ready for them or the vanity van ready. All of that is under artist, celebrity, entertainment. All of that comes together in that one. Sponsors. Milking sponsors and client servicing with sponsors is a separate ballgame altogether. That person is constantly only with the different sponsors and making sure that their deliverables as promised by you are met with. Okay. In your pre-production stage, before you hook the client, before a client signs on off with you, he does look at, what he is going to give you and what are you going to give him in return. So deliverables from both ends have to be met with and signed off on, and then it is your prerogative and your job, the client servicing person's job, to see that you deliver every single bit to the T. Mind you, if they say we want 25 invites, I'm taking hypothetical numbers again, they will not rest. They will never agree to 24. They will be happy to have 26, 27, 20, 30, but not less. So in that manner, if you said 5 hoardings, you can't suddenly say, okay, one hoarding was not available, so I didn't. No, you've got to work and get what you have. So therefore, before you give your deliverables, there's a lot of thinking that goes into it, practicality, and the basis that you will deliver, promise only what you can deliver. And then, of course, you've got to strive towards it and make it happen. Being with the sponsor during the event, is there anything that you'd like? No, not running behind them, but just at their eyes, notice where they can call you and tell you something. Many clients come ahead of the event and start, oh, why is this here? I don't like it here. Can we put it there? Ideally, they come, you should invite them the night before and take them for a round and show them that this is what we are doing. I hope everything is okay with you, so that you have enough time. If they want any changes, you can. And obviously, if there are changes which are good for the event and work for both of you, you should do it. Sometimes some clients come out with ridiculous requirements. Obviously, those you can politely decline. That it's not possible, it'll take so much. You have to be honest. No point in saying yes and then not being able to do it. Okay? Because, there are many examples, but I cannot go into that much detail right now. So meeting and being with the sponsors, because mind you, if they are there, your event continues year on year, they are happy, they come stay with you, and they go on with you year on year, and also help you grow your event. So sponsors are the God, the Bhagwan. You got to take care of them completely. Make sure they have their marquee as well. They always have a special area for them to be seated. Make sure it's all well taken care of. It's all fully equipped with what they want. Whatever is promised has to be delivered. Manpower and volunteers. You already have, I mentioned this, you already have your team head, then you have your sub-heads, core head, core person, and then he has sub-hands. He has hands down to help him. Okay, and then of course, ever since the event management institutes came into being, it worked both ways, that they have on-ground experience, and it worked for the event managers that they had people, they had hands basically, and some took the pains of training people on ground and at least taking some interest in showing them what is what, etc., so that they are, when they go back in the room for a theory lecture, they relate with the event. That is why in the course it is very important. I would say it is a 60-40 balance. 60 is theory, because you need to understand terminologies, you need to understand processes, systems, etc. And then 40% when you're on ground, when you're doing it there, you start relating. Okay, this is what we had learned and this is what it is. So depends, as a volunteer, what you go and do is completely up to you. You could just go there, and obviously, because you're a volunteer, they're not going to give you some major job and say, okay, I leave it to you and go away. They are going to give you smaller little tasks which are easy to do, because they're gauging, they're only taking your helping hand, mind you. So I have students very often cribbing that, oh, we were called and we were made to sit, and we just sit, we didn't do anything, we became ushers, we didn't do this, we were asked to pick up boxes and stuff like that. Now, I have learned it the hard way. I've never had an event company, or I've never had anybody to teach me. I've learned it the hard way. So I am like that, and I expect that every volunteer goes there and learns from what they can see. So if you've sat in your lecture and you've heard your lecturer tell you things about a truss, and you put your lights on the truss. If I were you, I would go there and I would start looking and saying, okay, this is a 6,000 people venue, there are 6,000 seats, and therefore the stage size is so and so, and therefore the trussing is so and so, and therefore there are so many lights. Let me count how many power cams are there, how many color labs are there, how many moving heads are there. And then therefore when you see the show, you'll realize, oh, this is what a light, and this is the kind of sound that we had for the show, and this is what it did to make a fantastic event. Okay, so if I were you, I would go and do the learning from the area. Look at everything and learn everything. Need be, ask questions. I do not understand. What is a console? When you're sitting in the class and listening to console, you can barely imagine. But when you go to the venue, go and see what a console is like, and what does it house, and who are the people sitting on it, and how do they operate it. So volunteering is not a menial job. It is a learning process for everyone. F&B, food and beverage. If it is sales or if it is free for all, whichever way, you've got to ensure that it's all in place. Everything is adequately required, especially water, especially food for your team. Very, very important. Because when you're working, you tend to forget. You get that bare 1 minute or probably that you come and you want to have a bite. But mind you, I'm saying it again and again, you've got to take care of yourself. If you act like a hero and say, I don't want to eat now, I'm not going to eat, and then when the event begins, you will collapse. So it is important that you look after yourself and your team so that then they can perform well during the event. Thank you so much.